Well, hello everybody and welcome to Jeff's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to make a Christmas bread pudding, or a mincemeat bread pudding. Now, bread pudding in the UK is a heavy, stodgy, fruit-filled dessert basically, which is made with bread and dried fruits. But for this version I'm using mincemeat instead of the dried fruits. And I got the suggestion from my sister, who had seen a recipe for it, so I thought, well, I'll give that a try. And I actually saw a recipe on the Tiptree website, which looked fairly straightforward, very similar to my traditional bread pudding recipe, except for using mincemeat instead of the dried fruit. So I thought I'd use that recipe as the base for mine, but I'm making a couple of changes because I'm adding in some mixed spice and some orange zest. That's for extra flavour. You can leave out the mixed spice if you think your mincemeat is flavoured enough, but that's entirely up to you. So it's a very easy recipe. Doesn't take long to come together, but it does have to bake for an hour and a half. So I've got a greased and lined 8-inch square pan ready to take the bread pudding once I've mixed everything together, and I'll go on to the ingredients. So I have here 500 grams, 1.2 pounds of bread, which I have torn into small pieces, and I'm using wholemeal bread because that's what I tend to have in the house. And this is slightly stale, which is a good place to start. You can use stale bread, you can use fresh bread, but if you have bread which is beginning to go stale, this is a good use for it. Then I have 500 grams, again 1.2 pounds or 1 3/4 cups of mincemeat, and you can use the mincemeat of your choice. Now, my mincemeat has suet in it, but it's a vegetable suet, so this particular recipe will be entirely suitable for vegetarians. But if you're using, if you have a mincemeat which has beef suet in it, it would not be suitable for vegetarians. I have 600 millilitres, 2.5 cups of milk, 150 grams, 3/4 cup of caster sugar. You could use brown sugar if you wanted to, but caster sugar is going to be fine for mine. I have 2 medium eggs, which would be large in the USA, 3 grams, 1.5 teaspoons of mixed spice, the zest from 1 orange, and 25 grams, 2 tablespoons of demerara sugar. That's to sprinkle over the top. Again, if you don't have demerara sugar, but you do have some granulated sugar, that will be okay as well. So the first thing to do is to mix the milk and the mincemeat into our bread, and we need to let that soak in. And as I do that, I'm going to sprinkle over my mixed spice, and that's so that I can get that mixed in as well, basically. So I pour in my milk, and then I'll add in the mincemeat. And this is the messy part of the recipe, because we need to mix that together, and to do that I need to use a hand. So I'm just going to turn the bread over, and I'm going to make sure that mincemeat gets distributed throughout. And then I'm going to squeeze it between my hand, in my hand should I say, until it's a nice mushy mixture. And you can use the crusts of your bread because that will break down nicely as it moistens in the mixture. And that's good like that. That's got the mincemeat distributed and the bread is all nicely moistened. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that for 15 minutes. And that 15 minutes will ensure that the bread absorbs the moisture and gets nice and soggy. And as that happens, I'm going to preheat my oven to 160 degrees Celsius, 140 Celsius with a fan, 325 Fahrenheit. So I'll be back in 15 minutes when we're ready to go on to the next stage. So my oven is preheating and my bread and mincemeat have soaked for 15 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to whisk my eggs and I'm going to put the orange zest in and give that a mix through, and then I'm going to mix the sugar through as well. And that's good. So then I'm going to put that into my mixture and mix it together. I'm going to mix it with my Danish dough hook, but a wooden spoon or the handle of a wooden spoon, however you want to do it, just to get that all combined. And that's good enough. So then I'm going to put that into my prepared pan. And with that in the pan, I'm going to level it off and it's going to completely fill the pan. And as it bakes, it will actually probably rise up just a little bit above the top. And the final thing to do is to sprinkle over my 2 tablespoons of demerara sugar. Like that. And then I'm going to put that into the oven and I'm going to bake it for an hour and a half, 90 minutes, or thereabouts, but 90 minutes. For the last half hour, I may cover it with a little bit of aluminium foil if it seems to be browning too much on top. But I'll check that and see. And then after 90 minutes, I'll take it out of the oven and I'll leave it in the pan for 10 to 15 minutes before transferring it to a wire rack. And then I'll come back and show you the results and we'll have a taste. I baked the Christmas bread pudding for 90 minutes. I did check it after 60 minutes and then I checked it a couple of more times, and I didn't need to cover it with foil. It just baked up nicely. It rose up just a little bit, and then I took it out of the oven and left it in the tin for about 15 minutes. Then I transferred it to a rack and left it to cool a little bit longer. I've now cut it into 16 pieces, 8 2-inch squares and 8 triangles, which will amount to the same volume basically. So I'll show you what they look like. And as you can see, it's going to be quite heavy and bready, which is what bread pudding should be like, full of the lovely fruit. So I'll have a taste of this one piece. That is absolutely delicious. You get the fruitiness from the mincemeat. I taste a slight orange background to it, and then the spice as well. And it's nice and dense, just like a bread pudding should be. And I ought to say, this bread pudding is a British style of bread pudding. In the United States or North America, a bread pudding over there is something completely different, which is more akin to what we know as bread and butter pudding. But this is a British bread pudding and it's absolutely delicious. It's best served warm. You can eat it cold. It's best served warm. You can actually reheat it for a short while in a microwave if you want to, if it's cold. And I like to serve it with custard, but often people have it with ice cream. So that's going to be it for this recipe. In the top right hand corner of the screen, there will be an eye that you can click on, and that will take you to a link for the recipe. And I'll put a link below the video as well. And I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.